Hey guys, what's going on? This is gonna be more of a laid back review just because I'm very afraid of the copyright content stuff. So I'm not quite sure if I'll be continuing to do like the picture 1 second at a time like I did the other one for Buddy's book, but I'll get to that later. But this one I believe is called Future Boy Zoltron. Now this one's pretty interesting. It's got, instead of like, romantic relationship, it's got more of a friendly relationship kind of issue kind of thing that we all kind of, I guess, go through. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. But it starts off with Steven going up to PD's shop asking, or not even asking for fry bits. It's, they're just like discussing the hardships of his job and so on. Anyway, Steven sees this little robot thing in this booth, and it's called Zoltron, and Mr. Smiley's just explained to him, this thing's great, it'll tell your future. And what's really weird, the art style got it kind of got wonky for a second, not in a bad way, but like at one point Steven looked almost like buffer and bulkier. It was kind of weird. It was really interesting at first too, because I was like, oh, they're finally starting to age him a little bit. But in other shots, he still looks like he's 6 or 7 years old. But that's whatever. He seems to be wearing a jacket, so I'm guessing it's like fall, almost winter, trying to match up with us. But I don't know. But it was really interesting because Steven seemed, really genuinely concerned, or not even concerned, just interested in Mr. Smiley's like backstory, which was really awesome. He was like in I don't know, his intelligence and maturity almost stacks up to them, and it's almost like the adults are just as immature as the kids, which is, I don't know, it just kind of, because you've kind of looked through this entire world through the eyes of Steven, and so at first they're on good ground, and then he breaks it. And so immediately he's a kid again, and he starts, saying, I'm sorry. So it's, I don't know, I'm kind of going off on a rant there. But eventually, because he breaks it with his, I don't know if it's because of his super strength. I'm guessing it is, because I don't think it's that easy to remove a robot like that. But he basically takes a job for basically no pay. And they eventually see like Lars and Sadie walking. And they're talking about, I think, seeing a movie or something, or working. And, Steven's all like, oh, I'm a robot. And basically throughout the episode, he's telling people's future, or not even future, it sounds more like advice that people need to hear, which is pretty interesting. So as the episode goes on, he's, he thinks he's doing a great job, I forgot his name, but the guy with the sunglasses who's always cool. He has like a stain on his like what looks like a reference to Macklemore's song. Wow, what was it? Oh, I'm so stupid. It was a really puffy jacket though, and he was like, "Hey, you can rock that stain." He's like, "Hey, yeah, I can rock that stain." Just like, okay, cool. He can actually talk like that. And then not Frybo, what's his name? Petey and Ronaldo, they have a little moment. He's like, oh, your father loves you. And it's like, all right, oh, yeah, no. Yeah, of course. But then this really weird guy comes up who I thought was like a homeless guy. But there was so much detail put into his facial features. He reminded me of that one SpongeBob character that Johnny Depp played. So I thought it was maybe like a celebrity guest. I was like, there's a lot of detail in this guy. But what it turns out is it's Mr. Smiley's old comedy partner, which is really interesting. Because you actually get to see more background of people outside of Beach City. But you see this guy and he's so glum. And I'm sorry if I describe him as a homeless person, but he's just, I don't know, he's so down, and he constantly is putting quarters in there, asking about his future. And Steven, and the question, the way he asks him is, why do I keep pushing people away, this, that, and Steven has no backstory on this, so he doesn't know what to say, and he constantly keeps putting quarters in, and Steven's like, oh Lord, like, what do I do? And the last quarter he tries to put in, he drops, and it goes down, and of course that makes him even sadder. This guy is just a sad magnet. Like, it's just so weird, and Steven doesn't know what to do for him, and he feels bad. But then he realizes, oh, that's actually, no. First, he's like, oh, how could I help this guy out? And then Garnet appears, of all places. And this does actually have to do with Garnet's future vision, which is very interesting because in the season 4 promo, you saw Sapphire's little thing in Mindless Education. And so since we saw that, I thought, oh, it's not even having anything to do with Garnet or them. But it turns out it does. And of course, she knew that because she has future vision. And she somehow passes it on to Steven, and Garnet walks up to him. I forgot what his name is. I'm terrible with names, so I apologize. But she's like, hey, go talk to him. And we get a better insight of what future vision looks like. From what Steven's perspective of it is there's like 3 slots, or at least he's limited to 3 slots. And it's each slot, or where a picture is a different scene. So he'll ask, or that scene will play out, and then it'll like cut to gray, and then it'll go to the next one, and it basically shows him what will happen if he says certain things, or at least possible. I don't know if Garnet sees maybe 50 or 100 or a million, but from what we see, basically, I'm guessing it's more like a video. It's not like that river thing that she was talking about. I think that's more of a metaphor. But basically anything Steven tried to say to him, it was just constantly ending in something sad. So that kind of helps, the viewer relate to people where we try to help them. We genuinely give them reasons to be happy. Hey, do this, do that. But they're just constantly sad, and we're just like, well, are you kidding me? So eventually he walks away, and he's like, all right, well, you're just depressing. And so Mr. Smiley comes up and he's like, hey, how much money are you making? And he's like, oh, you're doing great. But he asks, or Steven says, hey, your old partner came by, and Mr. Smiley's kind of off about it. And you kind of wonder, it's like, why wouldn't you want to see your own partner? And so they're talking about it. And he's just like, he was always so sad and all that stuff. Eventually, well, I think they catch up to him. Oh, no. Steven uses his future vision, or his temporary future vision, to see what Mr. Smiley can say to make him happy, and it literally ends up all in him in literally the same shot of being sad, which is so depressing because it really does help relate to real life, because there's just some people you cannot bring up no matter how positive you are. But eventually Mr. Smiley, he has this kind of like, it's a shot of his back, and he kind of like turns his head. It's very interesting because we usually see Mr. Smiley as this weird, fake, enthusiastic guy, but you see him kind of like sad running toward him, and it's super interesting because you're just like, you don't see this kind of person. And then finally, when they meet up again, the sad guy, again, I'm sorry about his name, he smiles, and they actually have a decent conversation. And he's like, oh, you're taking this as a joke, like everything else, you don't take anything seriously. And they go into like this mini, I guess, comedy act. It just kind of flows in, which is really interesting. And then I'm trying to figure out something. They actually have like a little reminiscence of being on a stage when they're actually not, which is really interesting. And it ends with him holding him upside down. And they just kind of get on good terms, which is fine and everything. It's like, all right, cool, everything's resolved. But then he gets on a bus and leaves. I'm not quite sure why that happened, because you would think, okay, he came back for a reason. My initial thoughts were he came back to patch things up and, hang out with them. But they patched things up, and right after that, he just left. Now, I'm not quite sure why he would do something like that, because at least me, of course, I'm not a writer or a writer for the show by any means. Ooh, delicious. It just kind of strikes me as weird, because you would think it would end off on them having spent the day together, fishing, eating, doing something, just spending some sort of minuscule time. But this was just so sudden. He just left, and I don't know, it kind of left me on a weird note. But I guess what they're trying to, I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, but it was very interesting, Steven trying to help out this depressed man. But I also think that this episode was trying to say that some people are just like that, and you can't exactly change them. And it's not that they're sad, it's just who they are, you know. And by you trying to pity them, that makes them even worse, you know. And so when they actually are sad, it multiplies that, and it's you kind of have to accept people the way they are. If someone is just naturally down, but they're actually okay, then you shouldn't, pursue it that much into changing them, unless they ask for it. That's what I'm guessing they are trying to hint at. But as far as that, that's all I really have to say. Right now, I'm actually about to start editing this. I don't really even think there's going to be much editing. But back to what I was saying about the whole copyright thing. Me and Nathan actually made a video where we just watched an episode of Dragon Ball Z. And we even made the video all small with a border and everything. We took the audio out, or most of it out. There was maybe 2% of the audio was Dragon Ball Z, if that. And basically YouTube the bots caught everything, and they were like, yeah, we can't, let you do this and that. So it completely got removed. It's very, especially Steven Universe, I don't want to mess them up as far as the Crewniverse goes. I don't want to, what's it called? Let's do pictures. Sorry, I'm literally editing this while I talk to you guys. Anyway, yeah, it completely picked up on it. It's literally blocked all over the world, which kind of bums me out a lot, but I don't know. There's a lot of new regulations and guidelines that YouTube's coming out with, so I don't know what to do exactly. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know this was more of a laid-back one. It wasn't edited too much, and I know I'm days late, but I've been having work, closing a lot, so please forgive me on that. But I will see you guys in the next video. Make sure to check out the Roundtable and AJ Universe's review on it. They do a much better analysis than I ever will. Yeah, I'm definitely digging these city episodes, and I hope we get more of them. I'll talk to you guys later.